Welcome to the Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa, where we discuss dating and other significant relationships.
Well, good evening, good people.
Hi, welcome to the show. We have Jorge, a second part, which is exciting, from our 50 Shades episode tonight. And we have back solo this time, our favorite Dom, Mr. Noir. Welcome to the show. Oops, not yet. We'll just give him a little minute to get back on here. So, Poppy, we talked about the world of BDSM, Doms with subs on our last show, 50 Shades, which was a year ago. Well, we have gotten into our second season, and there was still some mystery around the lifestyle, and we really wanted to do our part with education again in, letting people know, like, how do you find out about this particular lifestyle? How do you find reputable people who are in this lifestyle, who know really what it's about? And it's not just some slap up, kind of madhouse party, or somebody just out here practicing cruel behavior, but really the legitimate ins and outs of this particular lifestyle. So we had not as many questions on our Facebook feed this time as last, but still some feedback from others who have listened to the show, who maybe didn't want to comment publicly, being that this is a sensitive topic.
I think there is something to that, some people like to keep that aspect of their life close to the vest and don't want to put themselves out there necessarily. So I think there may be some of that, because it's still, even though it's starting to become part of our norm, as far as, society embracing this alternative lifestyle, there's still, people who are hesitant to be out there, or, some people just prefer to keep that aspect of their life intimate with them and their partner or partners, depending on who they decide to practice, this kind of adventure.
Oops. It seems like we had a little connection issue there. Mr. Noir was here and now he's gone, so we will give him a chance to get back on. At any rate, I think it's very fascinating. Not something that I necessarily actively would seek out for myself, but I think there's some elements of it that are worth kind of uncovering. The psychology behind the lifestyle is really what's fascinating to me. Why you would want to feel like you needed to be the person in control, or the person holding the power in the relationship, and not just in terms of the sexual relationship. I know for some people, the bedroom is where most of this particular brand of intimacy is found. But then there are people who live this lifestyle point blank, like all across the board, not just in the bedroom. So Mr. Noir, welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you back for part 2 of 50 Shades. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me back. I'm glad to be back.
We were just talking about some of the follow-up that we had from the first show. And while we didn't have as much public feedback on the Facebook page this time, we were talking about the sensitivity of it. I know we have had feedback from people in person, and wanted to just kind of follow up with you more along the lines of education in the lifestyle itself. How people gain access is one of the first questions that I have for you this evening. If you're a novice, if you're somebody who's never even thought about, the BDSM Dom sub lifestyle, what would be one of the first things you would suggest, or one of the first few things that you might suggest to somebody who was seeking to just find out more?
I would definitely recommend them going and educating themselves first before diving in. There is a thing called sub frenzy,
Hmm.
and that is when a submissive just jumps in and says, "Hey, I'm open to anything, and I just want to try everything."
Hmm.
And that's not necessarily the best approach. So what I would recommend is getting any books that they find on the internet that could help them familiarize themselves with the lifestyle, the terms, some of the concepts, some of the protocols in terms of engaging with people in the lifestyle and that kind of thing. So, kind of reading up on their own. And then there are meetings, which are called munches, that happen around the country in a lot of cities. And what a munch is when people in the community or the lifestyle get together in a public place, and it's a totally vanilla setting. So they may, get together at a restaurant or that kind of thing, and just get together and have food and have conversation. And, that's a good way for people to meet people in the lifestyle, ask questions without, having to be knee deep in it at an actual dungeon or actual play party at that time. It just gives them an opportunity to kind of gauge what kinds of people are in the lifestyle, because honestly, those are the questions. A person of color, so some of my first questions were, were there black people there? Were they
Right.
attractive? You know, across the board. So going to munches will give you an idea of, and of course, it's not going to be totally representative of everyone that you're going to meet in the lifestyle, but it will give you a gauge of what kinds of people from what walks of life are involved in the lifestyle, and it gives you an opportunity to ask questions.
Thank you. I think that was probably one of the things in my own mind. Like, how do you even know about this world? So that definitely covers a lot of that. What about do's and don'ts? Again, I think my background always makes me think about safety issues first. You know, when you go to um, even get into a relationship with someone, we talked a little bit about safety last time, but I think that's just still worth speaking on again. But, is there this, um, are there guidelines? Oh, did we lose him? I think we lost him. Hopefully, let me send a thing out. I'm so sorry, everyone. We want to make sure we can get a good connection again. So let me see if we can grab him back.
But I think one of the things I obviously personally myself have been involved in this world and lifestyle, and one of the things that I always you know tell people, particularly women who are seeking this, is to really define why. Like, what is their purpose? Is it just a curiosity? Is there a motivation? Or what exactly appeals? One thing that I've learned is that there is a lot of misnomers
Hmm.
when it comes to this world. And those misnomers stick in people's mind a lot, especially, when you got people who are watching, movies and, videos and stuff online that may, inaccurately depict uh, the BDSM world, because the BDSM world is almost whatever you want it to be. Just like dating, just like a relationship. At the end of the day, it's what you decide with your partner that you want to make it out to be. Can it be whips and chains? Absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt, it can.
Okay, I think we got him back. Mr. Noir, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome. technology always at its finest. It's getting too hot to handle on this show. It always starts cutting out when things start steaming up.
Mr.
Um,
Noir, let me ask you, do you have a vetting process when you're, maybe getting to know a submissive, or when you're maybe, uh, getting to know each other, or considering, making that dynamic something of a commitment? What does your vetting process look like?
My vetting process is fluid, and it has changed over the time as I've gained more experience in the lifestyle. I don't. I was about to say unfortunately. I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, but a lot of the women that I meet don't have any experience. So some of the vetting process that I would recommend to most people out there would be to talk to people about what their experiences are, and possibly even talk to people that they played with in the past. Now, of course, you can't do that with someone who doesn't have any experience. Uh, and in that case, I would really just get to know them. And I heard one of the comments that you made in terms of asking a submissive, and excuse me, I'm speaking from a dominant perspective. Uh, that's my point of view. So I'm speaking in terms of vetting submissives. But a point that you made, Jorge, was to ask them what their why is, and that could go for a submissive asking a dominant as well. And that's another point that I wanted to make, is that submissives are vetting potential dominants as well. Just like you go into a job interview, the company is not just interviewing you, you are also interviewing the company to see if they're a good fit for you. And it goes the same way with entering a dynamic. You want to ask people if they have any experience, what kind of education, have you had? What kind of uh, demonstrations or um, uh, talks, or that kind of thing have you attended? What do you read in terms of lifestyle materials, that kind of thing. And beyond the vetting of the lifestyle stuff, you just want to vet people how you would vet them when you're entering into potentially dating them. You want to ask those questions to see, are they stable, not just mentally, but are they emotionally stable? Because I would tell you that there are a lot of people in the lifestyle who come to the lifestyle looking to fit in somewhere, and the lifestyle is overarching. They welcome all. So you will meet a lot of different people. You will meet some people who are a little on the strange side. You will meet some really good people, but there are damaged people out there as well. And some of those damaged people come to the lifestyle looking to work through past traumas or work through issues that they're having. And you kind of want to have your antennas up for those types of things as well. So the vetting process goes and it runs the gamut from asking those questions that you would ask during, your normal dating process, as well as what their experiences are in the lifestyle, what kind of education that they've had, what kind of demonstrations they've gone to. Um, do they have a mentor? Do they have, people that they could refer you to that they played with? So it runs the gamut.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely important to establish a baseline, right? To establish a starting point. I know on a personal level, I always like to know the why and the motivation, right? But to me, that's very important. And I I sound like a broken record, but when I do pursue this with a submissive, I also mention that, hey, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So we're not going to get to everything in one night or in one scene. And I approach it like that. And I make it very clear that we're not going to do anything until we have had lengthy conversations and I feel comfortable that you are comfortable with what you're getting into and what you're looking to explore. But and to me, I think it should be like that, because if you meet a guy for a cup of coffee and now he's like, all right, well, let's go, I'm gonna tie you up, like that is probably a red flag in my opinion. Because you want somebody that really is going to get to know you and really is going to get a good feel for you. And more importantly, you want to make sure that safety and being precautious is going to be on the forefront of his mind. And of course, when a person is comfortable and when a person feels that their safety is not an issue, then it just kind of lets everything flow so much easier.
That is an excellent point, Jorge, because as I said earlier, I think women have, and I'm sorry, submissives don't equal women. There are men who are submissive. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
so submissives, especially new in the lifestyle, don't realize that the power that they have and that they should be vetting people. So you're absolutely right in that they should be asking questions of the dominant as well, to ask, what your experiences are, because there are predators out there. There are sub collectors out there, and what a sub collector is that they have a submissive every couple months, and they just keep going on down the list. That's not a good thing. So you do want someone who is going to take their time to get to know you, because some of the things that we do aren't traditional, and
that's a good word.
Euphemism of the day award goes to Mr. Noir.
It
So,
is far from
but
tradition.
also, quite honestly, some of the things that that we do, depending on who you're engaging with, you could be arrested for some of these things. If you're not dealing with someone who is totally consensual both ways, because those are two of my cornerstones, are negotiation and consent. And the negotiation process is going to start from the time that you express interest in interacting with me on through the first time that we have an encounter. And it doesn't stop at the first encounter. It goes on through, because I'm going to continue to check in with you while the scene is going on, during aftercare, the next day. All of those things have to be in place. But for someone who's new, that doesn't realize those things, those are all things that you need to look out for, because, like Jorge said, there are people who are just willing to jump in, and that is absolutely not the situation that you want to be in.
That's a red flag. That's a red flag, and
absolutely.
I absolutely let people who on both sides, right, who are looking to get into this world or explore it, that you got to educate yourself, you got to explore, and you also have to be patient. Like, this isn't a sprint where you have to do all your different scenes in one night, or it's a failure. Like, if anything, that's the beauty of it, that you start at a certain point, and then as the dynamic grows and it continues to evolve with a strong bond, and as you get accustomed and you understand each other, you can start to take bigger leaps and bounds as far as some of the kinks that you want to explore, some of the fantasies that you've thought about, or some fantasies you have and you just don't realize because you haven't had somebody to guide you or tap into that imagination.
And there are things that people don't realize that are kinks, or they didn't know that, oh, that's a thing. And so there's so much out there. But again, Jorge, you're absolutely right. It takes patience. It takes gaining a level of comfort. It's levels to it. And there are women that I have engaged with where, you know, the first scene looks nothing like the scene 6 months from now, but that
Yep.
level of comfort, that level of trust, that level of communication, me paying attention to their body language, all of those things build over time, and you have to get there and you have to allow it to kind of blossom.
All right.
Oh,
So the voice
absolutely.
of the novice here, because I think it's very important for people who are very interested, but who are clueless, like I am, to be able to have a couple of questions. And this is something that has really um, come up for me in recent dating opportunities. This whole idea of a dominant man, or for in my case, a dominant man, but a dominant, and this idea of a submissive, you know, being touted around. And quite honestly, it has sickened me a little bit in my dating experience, because it's almost like there's a man who just wants a woman, or you know partners, one dominant, one submissive, let me say it that way, who just wants somebody to shut up and take it sort of attitude, and like, don't question me, don't have an opinion, don't assert yourself. um that's been more of the energy that I've been getting from these self-labeled alphas that I've encountered recently. And what I hear, though, both of you saying in this conversation tonight, is that a real dominant isn't out to suppress a sub, but there is negotiation, there's a power exchange, there's balance in this situation. Can you speak to that a little more? Because I feel like, you know, do do people have some sort of misguided notion about, and I guess it depends on what everybody's definition of an alpha is, but is that what we're talking about here with this type of relationship? I'm not hearing that from what you're describing, but I think there's so many people who are out here walking around thinking I'm the one with all the power, and you listen to me and do whatever I say, and we'll do it however I want it. And the sub is just sort of meek and mild, and somebody who wants to be treated that way. And are we confused? What's happening?
Well,
Well,
give me 1 second to lay this out, because I think this is ultra important that we give clarity to this. So, in this world, in the BDSM world, we have submissives and we have slaves. And I always ask women, do you know the difference between the two? And often most women say, no, not really. And the reason why that's imperative is because a submissive, you have a voice, you have power. Sometimes I would even argue that the submissive has more power than the dominant, because me and Mr. Noir, we can go on top of buildings and scream that we're dominants, right? However, if we don't have a submissive, we are not a dom. And the submissive is the one that is gifting you that power and that power exchange. Therefore, that's what makes you a dom. So, in essence, the submissive has just as much power, if not more power. But back to the original point, a submissive is someone who is willing to follow your lead and your guidance under certain agreement of consent and a certain level of give and take, right? This isn't a my way or the highway, and it shouldn't be a bullying type situation or like a drill sergeant. Now, a slave, the difference between a slave in the context of the BDSM world, a slave has no voice. You basically do whatever you are told, and there's really not a lot that you can push back on.
So, Mr.
But
Norton, do you agree with that? Like, has that been your experience?
he's right on. I would add to everything that he said, and I don't disagree with anything that he said. What I would add to it is that it's called a power exchange.
Mhm.
And in order to exchange power, you have to have power. As Jorge said, the submissive is gifting the dominant their submission. And, based on the agreement that they've come up with. But in order to exchange or gift someone that power, you have to have it. And you are exchanging that for their dominance. So I was about to say ladies, but men and women who are submissives, do not forget that you have input and you have power in the situation. Now, as he mentioned, there's a vast difference between slave and submissive. If you're talking about a master slave situation, that's something, totally different.
Another
But
level.
other few levels actually.
Right.
But in terms of the power exchange, yes, there should be negotiation, and there should be uh, some thought into what's going on in that dynamic. I think the other thing is that a lot of men automatically think that they should be the dominant one in the dynamic without knowing anything about BDSM or anything like that. They think that being a dominant is basically, you're going to do whatever I say and I'm just going to have a sex slave. Basically, stand on one foot and bark like a dog. And it doesn't work that way. I've actually had submissives that I've interacted with who have met other men who thought that they were interested in the lifestyle, and she would ask them, well, what role do you think we play? I would be a dominant because, she's going to do everything that I say. And the submissive knew enough to know that, being a dominant is not so easy. It's not as much. It's not as much do what I say when I say, as much as it is leadership and checking in with the person and coming up with these scenes and making sure that there's safety precautions involved and that kind of thing. And ultimately, she said to the guy, that's not something that I would want to do. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It is work, but my thing is this: as far as the whole mentality of being a dom, like when you live the life and when you carry yourself like a dom in your everyday life, then it just becomes natural because you're just used to, hey, if I got to handle this, then I do it and I take charge, and that's just how I roll. But if somebody's just forcing the issue, then a woman who has intuition, she's going to realize that, hey, like, this guy just doesn't seem like a natural leader, or this guy doesn't strike me enough comfort and trust to follow his lead to no end.
And that's a good point, Jorge, because and I'm going to take this outside of the lifestyle. Just in regular dating, I think people struggle with identifying what they're looking for in a partner. So for women, it is up to you to identify the leadership qualities in a man before you start following them. And there are a lot of men out there who think that because they are male, that they should be the leader. Well, you have to demonstrate that you have what it takes to lead. You have to demonstrate and gain that trust. You have to earn someone following you before you are bestowed that gift. And it goes the same in the lifestyle. You are not just a dominant because you're male or you say I'm a dom. There is a lot that goes into being a dom in terms of education, in terms of being able to read your partner. There are safety precautions. There are lots of things that you have to know and demonstrate before you expect someone to follow you.
Okay, so let me ask this question, because you're talking about power exchange. So if I am the submissive, for example, and I'm going to give you dominance over me in whatever the situation is that we, decree and declare between us that that's what we want. At what point do we exchange energy again? At what point do I regain my own power back?
Well, that is dependent on what you guys negotiated. There are 24/7 dynamics, which is basically as it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
You're engaged 24/7. There are situations where I may be topping you for a specific time, and what a top is someone who is dominating someone for a specific time. So we have a scene, we get together for on a Saturday night, we have a scene that particular night, I'm dominating you for that particular scene, and once that scene is over, we go back to our respective corners, and that's it. A dom sub relationship extends past that scene and is on a more ongoing basis, but how long and what that looks like is all determined by what you guys have negotiated.
Me personally, whenever I do engage in a DS, I let it be known to, whatever sub I may have, or any potential subs that I may be considering, that I like to be a dom in the bedroom. So within the within the paradox of the bedroom and the romance, that's when I like to exude my dominant energy, and I like to have the exchange of power. Outside of that, I'm going to treat you like a grown woman. I'm going to treat you with respect, and we're going to conduct ourselves like adults. And, we're going to be yin and yang. And there is nothing wrong with letting the woman take the initiative in other aspects of life, because to me, it's all about finding that healthy balance. However, in the bedroom, that is where I like to make it very clear that I like to feel the dominance. And I lay that out pretty clear. And most women tend to gravitate to that and feel pretty comfortable with that. And it's a pretty clear expectation. Now, as you mentioned, yeah, you do have scenarios where some, people want 24/7 DS. And that, I strongly recommend somebody who is new or somebody who is still trying to find their way in this world to not do that right away. I would always recommend people to try it in short snippets or in scenes or in bedroom settings. And then if you feel that that is still something that you wish to pursue, then obviously as you grow and as you get to know the person, you're going to start feeling more comfortable pursuing that 24/7. But if you're not going to enjoy it in the bedroom, odds are you're probably not going to like that 24/7 in everyday life. So it's very important to be aware, especially if you're new or if you're trying to, find your role and find out what you're into or what you're seeking. Baby steps. And again, it is a marathon, not a sprint.
So,
And
I'm sorry, go ahead. I'll ask you after.
that's a good point. And just to piggyback on what Jorge said is, find your way.
Well, what I'm curious about, what about non-sexual dom sub relationships? Like, that is something that I think other people might be curious about. Like, for instance, the single parent who has to take on the whole responsibility of rearing a child, making sure the household's okay, taking care of bill payment. What if it is not in the, like, are there doms out there for that? And I guess maybe that's a sugar daddy. I don't know. But
Yeah, they call those sugar daddies.
is there a role outside of just the bedroom for?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
Absolutely. There are, and it really depends on who you're engaging with, because here's another good point that I want your audience to keep in mind. Just because I'm in the lifestyle and you're in a lifestyle, that does not mean that our kinks align.
Mm-hmm.
So
Very true.
I have met plenty of people that they're interested in the lifestyle, but once we start talking about what aspects we're interested in and what they like, for instance, there is a such thing that called a daddy dom and little girl.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not necessarily interested in being a daddy dom. There are submissives who identify with their more bratty side. I don't necessarily enjoy engaging with brats. I am a bit of a sadist. So someone who does not enjoy pain may not enjoy those interactions with me. So, there are a lot of things out there to, find that you enjoy. And I am not a person who is about forcing someone to do something that I'm into that they're not into or interested in, and or even curious about. There's too many things out there that we could find that we both enjoy to try. Now, if if it comes up that the things that you're really interested in and I'm not interested in, hey, our kinks don't align. But, you know, don't think that just because someone is in a lifestyle that you're automatically going to connect. Just like a good person that you meet in the vanilla world, who has all these great qualities and all these great checkbox items. Oh, great job, good looking, whatever. But there's necessarily no chemistry or anything like that. It's the same in the kink world. In terms of outside the bedroom, there are plenty of women that I've come in contact with who are service oriented. So they like doing different tasks. They like having tasks assigned to them during the day. Some women are very domestic, where they like domestic duties. I've attended a high protocol dinner where the doms were well dressed and we were all at dinner, and all of the submissives served a 5-course meal. They were scantily clad and it was like white tablecloth service. And some submissives are into that kind of thing. But then you may talk to someone else and they're like, yeah, no, I just want to be spanked. So it really depends. But yes, there are situations where it can extend past the bedroom, but it just depends on who you're dealing with and what they're interested in.
And Nelsa, just to kind of um, pick up on this particular question that you laid out there are some times where you can just do a scene with a dom, and you may have some people who like, hey, I just want to be spanked, or I want a dom to use different toys or different gadgets on me, and they call those impact scenes. So there are women who just enjoy the masochist aspect of it, where they just want a dom to dominate them for a particular scene. But then once the scene is finalized, then life goes on. But as far as what Mr. Noir was talking about, think of it like you may meet a person and you have great vibe, great chemistry, and then you get in the bedroom and the chemistry is just not there. Same concept, right? Where you're both into BDSM, but then once you start kind of getting into the details and the nitty gritty of your kinks, you realize that they don't align. And if they don't align, then that's going to be a challenge, because then at that point you might be forcing the issue, and that's never good when it comes to intimacy. You always want intimacy to be organic and free flowing. So it's important to remember those things.
So,
And now, so to kind of circle back to your original question, there are submissives out there who look for structure and guidance from their dominant. So there are submissives, as you mentioned, who may be a single parent, single mom that's handling all of these different items, and they may need an extra push, or they may want to accomplish certain things, and they may want accountability from a dom, or that check-in to say, hey, did you accomplish this task, or I expect you to have this and that done. So that, to answer your question, is outside the bedroom. But for some people, that's something that that would appeal to them, and something that they look for in a dominant. And again, it just depends on what you're looking for, and if your dom is qualified to you know assist in that area, or if they have an interest in that area. But absolutely, it could extend past the bedroom and not be necessarily a sexual thing all the time.
Okay.
So I'd like to put a particular person that I follow on YouTube, and her name is Miss Ellex. And she is great when it comes to this kind of stuff. She does a lot of videos and a lot of tutorials where she talks about all sorts of topics relating to BDSM, and I strongly recommend people checking her out. And she's been probably one of my go-to sources when it comes to just getting good guidance and just kind of explanation on certain kinks that maybe I wasn't too familiar, or that I just needed to expand my knowledge. And she's been very helpful. And I share her stuff all the time with, a particular prospect. And another thing to remember when it comes to this world, it's, as a dom, you always want to have one foot in scene and one foot in reality, because you always have to make sure that even while you're in scene, you always want to make sure that safety and comfort are important. And
You guys can't see me, but I'm nodding.
yeah, like one scene in reality and one foot in reality and one foot in the scene, because you have to make sure that, hey, safety is always a priority. And I tell women, if the guy that you meet doesn't show you that he has a gentleman side quality to him, he is not a good dom. You need to run away, because being a dom is not about being just a bully and learning how to be rough and hog tying somebody. That is not what being a dom is about. Being a dom is about being able to lead, being able to mold, being able to teach, be a supporter, and to be able to guide you. But that, a lot of people get, caught up with the narcissistic and the abusive type of doms, and those guys, those will drain you of your resources.
Well, that seems the criminal aspect of it, if you ask me. Just, to not take someone's safety into um, consideration is just, to me,
Yeah,
that's
but we don't want to paint the totally rosy picture,
right.
that there are all good doms out there. There are, as we mentioned, some predators and some
Right.
people out there that you have to be aware of. And so you need to you know keep these things in mind when you're vetting these people.
I guess 30 seconds, Mr. Noir, or less. Why should anyone even give consideration to this particular lifestyle? What can they gain?
For me, I'm not a role player. This is not a role play thing. This is a part of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll speak to it from that aspect of it. If it's something that's inside you and something that you want to explore on either side of it, dominance or submission, then that is the why that you should explore it and, give it a chance, because it's part of who you are.
Okay. Jorge, any final questions? This has been an absolutely eye-opening time frame. I know we've gone a little bit past our normal time, but I think it has definitely been not not stereotypical in any shape, form, or fashion. And I think if anybody's listening to the show who maybe had some preconceived notions, I just want to say thank you to you, Mr. Noir, and you also, Jorge, with your experiences for sharing those things, and just kind of helping us to open ourselves up to at least learn about something different. Maybe this isn't everybody's shtick. Maybe this isn't what you want to do. Uh, but I just think sometimes having knowledge of more than maybe what we're used to, kind of getting out of our comfort zone, at least learning about somebody else's point of view is always very helpful. Especially in today's dating scene. I'm like, you can't get through Tinder or any of the other apps without seeing, um, you know, ENM, ethical non-monogamy, or beauty. You got to at least know what the alphabet soup is.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of alternative ways. The whole vanilla scheme that is starting to erode and be more of the exception. But me personally, I just think that it's a fun world. But a lot of it is whatever you make it out to be, just like it would be with any kind of dating concept. But definitely you have to be careful, because one bad experience with a dom could ruin any future endeavors that you may want to pursue or consider. So
And I've encountered some submissives who have had that one bad experience and has soured them on it totally. So you're absolutely right.
it's just important to be very careful who you submit to, and as a submissive, be mindful that you have a gift and you are giving someone this gift. So if they don't appreciate this gift, that they don't deserve your submission.
Nelsa, do you have the resource that I sent you on?
Oh yeah.
It's kind of a guidebook for submissives on the vocabulary, some terms. It kind of opens them up to what's out there, what they should be looking for. It gives them a history of the lifestyle. It's a good read for someone who doesn't have any experience, who's interested in the lifestyle. Before they even start talking to anyone, just read this book, and it will give you a wealth of knowledge, as well as the vocabulary to wrap your arms around some things that are out there that you didn't even realize was a thing. Right. And put some terms to some things that you've already been interested in, and it's like, oh, that's what that's called, as well as what to look out for and that kind of thing. So yeah, if you could
Share it. Absolutely.
Yep.
How to Be a Healthy and Happy Submissive by Kate Kinsey is the book Mr. Noir is speaking of. But I'll also put it in the show notes. So definitely check there if you weren't able to write it down just now. But we will definitely put that in, so that's a resource, as well as like some of the Facebook resources. Like you said, there's a Vet Life where you can do the group, Facebook group. And then if there are other things that, off air we talk about, I'll definitely add those to the notes. So this has been an awesome interview again, Mr. Noir. Thank you so much for spending time with us again this evening. And we wish you the very best as you, hopefully find the sub you're looking for. However that goes.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Wonderful discussion. You guys have a good evening. Talk to y'all later, good people.